I never knew silence could cut through flesh until that Sunday afternoon, the day Adiz handed me a brown envelope at her parents' dining table. Christmas lunch. Jollof rice steaming, goat meat spicy, children laughing in the next room, gospel music humming from the speaker. Her mother's perfume mixed with the smell of fried plantain. Everyone was smiling, except me, because I didn't understand what was happening yet. Adiz, my wife of 8 years, looked at me with that kind of smile people wear when they have already said goodbye in their hearts. She slid the envelope across the table gently, like it was nothing. "For you, Chike," she said, her voice sugar-coated but hollow. I wiped my hands, still oily from the food, and opened it. Inside were divorce papers. Signed. Sealed. Cold. The table went quiet for a heartbeat, then her mother started clapping. Her brother followed. Even her father gave a slow nod, as if they were watching a well-rehearsed play. I just sat there, holding the papers, hearing my heartbeat louder than the music. My tongue was heavy. My chest burned, but my face didn't move. Adiz leaned close, her breath warm and careless. "Merry Christmas," she whispered. I smiled. I don't know why. Maybe because if I didn't, I would break something. Then I said softly, "You should open your gift too." Her eyes blinked in surprise. She didn't expect that. She thought I came empty-handed. She was wrong. As she reached for the small wrapped box under the tree, my heart beat slower. I had been waiting for this moment, for months. Outside, the Lagos sun was bright and unforgiving. Inside, something darker was just beginning. Hey family, before we dive into this powerful story, don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss the next one. Please like this video, drop a comment to share your thoughts or lessons you learned, and give your honest review. I'd love to hear what you think. Now, let's begin the story. I met Adiz 10 years ago at the University of Lagos. She was 21 then, bright eyes, soft laughter, the kind of woman that made even the wind pause to listen. I was 24, a quiet law student who believed life was something you could plan like a timetable. She walked into my world wearing a yellow dress and confidence. I helped her carry her books that day, and she told me I walked too fast. I told her she talked too much. We laughed, and from that small spark came a fire I thought would never die. We dated through strikes, exams, and late-night study sessions. When she fell sick, I skipped my lectures to care for her. When I passed my final exams, she was the first person I hugged. People called us the perfect pair. And maybe we were, until real life started. After school, I found work at a small law firm in Ikeja. Adiz wanted to go for her master's, so I took loans and helped her through. I believed in her dreams the same way I believed in sunrise, sure, constant, beautiful. When we married, we rented a small 2-bedroom flat. Life was not rich, but it was peaceful. We prayed every morning, cooked together on weekends, and promised never to sleep angry. Then came success. I opened my own firm. We bought a house in Lekki. We bought a car. And slowly, the laughter that once filled our rooms started sounding forced. It started small. She began locking her phone. Calls she took outside. Girls' night out that became too frequent. I noticed perfume that wasn't mine. I asked once, and she laughed it off. "You're overthinking things, Chike. You lawyers always imagine stories." But my instincts wouldn't rest. I watched, waited. Her smiles were becoming sharp like knives, beautiful but dangerous. Her younger brother, Keen, started visiting more often. He was 30, flashy, always showing off his new car or wristwatch. I never liked how freely he entered our home, how his jokes lingered too long. Adiz defended him, he's family. So I kept quiet. But I noticed their glances. The too long hugs. The private laughter when they thought I wasn't looking. Maybe I wanted to believe I was wrong. Maybe I loved her too much to admit the truth standing right in front of me. As a lawyer, I deal in facts, not feelings. So, I hired a private investigator, a quiet man from Surulere who owed me a favor. 2 weeks later, he came with photos. My wife and Keen. Hotel. Restaurant. Car park. Their hands were not shy. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just sat there staring at the pictures as if my heart was learning a new kind of pain. That night, I slept beside her, pretending everything was fine. She kissed me goodnight. I almost laughed. Revenge doesn't always come loud. Sometimes it moves like smoke, silent, steady, invisible. I began to prepare. I documented everything: receipts, transfers, call logs. Every lie had a trail, and I followed it patiently. I transferred ownership of our house to my sister, Adeobi, under the excuse of tax purposes. Adi signed without reading. She trusted my pen more than her own eyes. I smiled often. She thought I was calm. She didn't know I was building a wall between us brick by brick. She started being extra sweet. Breakfast in bed, surprise hugs, long messages. Maybe guilt made her kind. I played along. I bought her gifts. I told her how beautiful she looked. She smiled, relieved. One evening, she said, "You're such a good man, Chike. I don't deserve you." I looked at her and replied softly, "You're right." She laughed, not knowing the weight in my words. That December, her parents invited us for Christmas lunch. Their home in Ikoyi was full of light, laughter, and fake peace. Her father bragged about family unity, her mother praised Adiz for being the perfect wife. I sat there, listening, my smile glued to my face. When she handed me that brown envelope, I already knew what it was. She wanted to end it, but on her own terms, surrounded by applause. She had no idea she was walking straight into her own storm. When I told her to open her gift, the air in the room turned heavy. The wrapping paper rustled softly like dry leaves before a fire. She opened the box, saw the photos, and froze. Her mother gasped, her father dropped his spoon, and Keen's face went pale. I stood, calm as morning water, and said, "You should see what loyalty looks like when it finally wakes up." No one spoke. I walked out into the afternoon sun, the sounds of the city washing over me. I was not angry anymore. I was free. But freedom, I soon learned, is only the beginning of another kind of story. As I stepped out of the house that afternoon, the sun hit my face hard, but the warmth couldn't touch the cold inside me. My feet carried me to the car, but my mind was still at that table, watching the walls of Adiz's pride crumble. When I drove away, I didn't look back. I didn't need to. Some chapters close without sound, only the quiet ache of lessons learned. At a red light, I sat in silence. The city buzzed, horns blaring, hawkers shouting, life going on as if nothing had happened. And maybe that was the hardest part, how the world doesn't stop for your heartbreak. That night, my phone wouldn't rest. Adiz called, then her mother, then Keen. I ignored them all. By midnight, she sent a message, "Please, can we talk?" I deleted it. Still, when I lay down, sleep refused to come. The memories came instead, our wedding day, her laughter, our small kitchen years ago. I wanted to hate her, but the truth is, love doesn't disappear like smoke. It lingers, stubborn and sad. So I cried, not loud, but deep. Like a man who has finally buried a part of himself. The next morning, Adiz came to my office. She looked nothing like the proud woman from yesterday. Her makeup was gone, her eyes red. She held the divorce papers like they were burning her hands. "Chike, please," she said, voice shaking. "Can we fix this?" I looked at her for a long time before speaking. "Fix what?" "The marriage you already buried." Tears ran down her face. I almost reached out to wipe them, but my hand stopped halfway. "Go home, Adiz. We're past repair." Lagos loves gossip the way children love sugar. Within days, everyone knew. My neighbors whispered. Friends called to confirm. Some pitied me, others pretended not to know. But the worst was the silence from her side. Her family, once loud and proud, became invisible. Their house gate, always open, stayed locked for weeks. I heard Keen lost his job after his boss received an anonymous package of photos. I didn't need to send it twice. Lawyers know one truth: paper doesn't lie. When Adiz's lawyer tried to argue in court, I presented everything: bank statements, hotel receipts, even her signed documents transferring property. She sat there, broken, her hands trembling as the judge read the evidence. I didn't gloat. I didn't even smile. Justice doesn't need laughter, it only needs light. When the session ended, she wouldn't meet my eyes. I almost pitied her. Almost. Returning home after the verdict felt strange. The rooms were too quiet. Her clothes were gone, but her scent lingered. The photo of our wedding still sat on the shelf. I stared at it for a long time before turning it face down. That night, I cooked for one. The stew tasted like metal. The silence of the house pressed on my chest. Sometimes, winning still feels like loss. A week later, my mother came from Enugu. She hugged me tight, her wrapper smelling of home and camwood. She didn't ask questions, she just cooked and sat with me. In the evening, she said softly, "My son, sometimes God breaks your heart to save your soul." I nodded, not fully understanding, but her words sank deep. She prayed for Adiz, not curses, not fire, just peace. That's when I realized true strength isn't in revenge. It's in walking away with your spirit clean. Rumors reached me. Adiz moved back to her parents' house. Her father fell ill from the shame, her mother stopped attending church. People avoided them in social gatherings. Keen left Lagos after losing everything. Some said he went to Ghana, others said Port Harcourt. I didn't care to know. One night, Adiz called from a new number. Her voice was small. I just wanted to say sorry. I listened in silence, then said, "May God heal you." That was the last time we spoke. Months passed. I focused on work. My firm grew stronger, clients trusted me more. They said I looked calmer, wiser. Maybe pain teaches peace if you survive it. I began jogging in the mornings, drinking water more, sleeping better. I met new people, but I wasn't in a hurry. Some wounds need time, not company. At night, when I sat on the balcony watching the city lights, I realized something: freedom is not forgetting, it's learning to breathe again. A year later, I attended a friend's wedding. As the couple danced, I smiled, not out of envy, but gratitude. I had learned what love can do when it is pure, and what it destroys when it turns selfish. Someone once said revenge is a flame that burns both the guilty and the innocent. But I didn't seek revenge, I sought truth. And truth, though painful, cleans deeper than fire. When I left the hall that night, I looked up at the stars and whispered, "Thank you, Lord, for the storm." Without it, I wouldn't have found my calm. The night wind blew softly, carrying away the ashes of the men I used to be. The first heavy rain of the year came suddenly. I was in the office when the thunder rolled over Lagos. I watched the drops race down my window, blurring the city lights. Rain used to remind me of Adiz. We would sit by the balcony with mugs of tea, laughing at people running through puddles. But this time, I didn't think of her with pain. I only thought, some things wash away with time. When the rain stopped, the air smelled new. I took that as a sign, it was time to start living again, not just surviving. One evening, as I parked my car, a young woman struggled to carry a heavy gas cylinder into the compound. I rushed to help. Her name was Amaka, 27, a nurse who had just moved in next door. She thanked me shyly, her dimples deep as river wells. We began to greet each other every morning. No flirting, just warmth. I didn't realize how much I missed the sound of gentle laughter until hers filled my corridor. Amaka loved to talk about life. She said things like, "Pain doesn't mean God hates you, sometimes he's just clearing space." I liked listening to her. She reminded me that kindness still existed, that trust wasn't foolishness, it was bravery. She was healing from her own heartbreak too, though she rarely said it. Two broken souls learning to smile again, that's what we became. One Sunday, we went to the local market together. She bargained with such fire that even the pepper seller laughed and called her Madam Lawyer Friend. For the first time in years, I laughed until my ribs hurt. As we walked home carrying tomatoes and laughter, I felt light, like the city had forgiven me, or maybe I had forgiven myself. That night, Adiz sent me a message. "I saw you today at Yaba Market. You look happy." "I'm glad." I didn't reply immediately. I just stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed, "I wish you peace." Sometimes closure isn't a conversation, it's a sentence that ends quietly. Mama called and begged me to come home for Easter. I hadn't been back to Enugu since everything happened. When I arrived, she danced like the years had melted off her feet. At dinner, she said, "My son, your eyes are clear again. That means God has finished his work." I smiled. Maybe she was right. Some lessons end not with pain, but with peace. While in Enugu, I met an old friend who mentioned seeing Adiz at a church women's seminar. "She's changed," he said. "She speaks softly now, like someone who has learned how fragile hearts are." I didn't feel anger. Only calm. Maybe we were both growing in our own corners of the world. When I returned to Lagos, Amaka invited me to her church charity program. I went, mostly to support her, but I ended up staying longer than planned. Watching children sing and dance in their clean uniforms, my chest filled with warmth. Helping them reminded me of everything I'd forgotten: purpose, faith, laughter. A month later, Amaka and I drove to Tarkwa Bay. We sat by the shore, letting the wind whip our faces. She turned to me and said, "You know, Chike, love isn't about never being hurt. It's about having the courage to try again." I looked at her eyes, shining against the fading sun, and said quietly, "Maybe I'm learning that." The waves roared like applause. One morning, I found a letter in my mailbox. It was from Adiz. She wrote that she had started working at a small NGO, helping women rebuild their lives. She thanked me, not for what happened, but for setting her free from lies. At the end, she wrote, "If you ever find love again, treat her gently. She will be lucky to have you." I folded the letter and whispered, "We both found our lessons." That night, I called Amaka and asked if she'd like to join me for dinner. She laughed softly and said yes. The city lights twinkled through my window like stars, and for the first time in a long while, they didn't look distant. They looked like home. Thank you, my friends, for watching this story to the end. If this tale touched your heart, don't just leave quietly. Click subscribe, like this video, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me how you feel about Chike's story. What would you have done if it were you? I read every comment like a letter from family. And please, don't go too far. Part 2 is coming soon, and trust me, you don't want to miss what happens when the storm finally finds peace. So stay tuned, my dear viewers. Come back, watch, share, and let's keep walking together through more stories that heal, teach, and inspire. Globe showing Europe, Africa.